It all started on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day where the sky couldn't decide whether it wanted to storm or just sulk, leaving the world in a damp, gray haze. I was supposed to be running errands, groceries, dry cleaning, the usual mundane checklist of adult life, but instead, I found myself standing in front of a thrift store I'd passed 100 times before, but never entered. The display window was cluttered with mismatched furniture, vintage records, and a mannequin wearing a sequin dress that caught the dim light just right, shimmering like a secret waiting to be uncovered. Something about it pulled me inside, as if the universe had nudged me through the door with an invisible hand. The air inside was thick with the scent of old books and mothballs, the kind of smell that clung to memories. I wandered aimlessly at first, flipping through dusty vinyl sleeves and pretending to examine a chipped teacup, but my eyes kept drifting back to the clothing racks at the back. There, tucked between a leather jacket and a hideous Christmas sweater, was a hanger holding a delicate floral dress, soft pink with tiny blue forget-me-nots, the fabric light as a breath. Before I could talk myself out of it, my fingers brushed against the material, and a jolt of something electric shot through me. I hadn't planned on buying it. In fact, I told myself I was just curious, just looking, just killing time. But when the cashier, an older woman with kind eyes and rainbow-dyed hair, smiled at me and said, "This would look lovely on someone special," I heard myself say, "It's for me." The words hung in the air between us, surprising us both. She didn't laugh. She didn't even blink. Just nodded and said, "Then I hope you enjoy it, sweetheart." The dress sat in my closet for 3 days, hidden behind a row of button-down shirts, as if it were some illicit contraband. Every time I caught a glimpse of it, my stomach twisted with something between excitement and terror. What was I doing? I'd never worn women's clothing before. I'd never even considered it. But the more I tried to ignore it, the more it called to me, whispering possibilities I couldn't name. On the 4th night, alone in my apartment with the curtains drawn, I finally gave in. My hands shook as I unbuttoned my shirt and stepped out of my jeans, standing there in just my boxers, staring at the dress like it might bite me. Slipping it on was awkward at first. The fabric felt foreign against my skin, the fit all wrong in places I didn't expect. But when I turned to the mirror, something inside me cracked open. The person looking back at me wasn't the man I saw every morning. She was softer, gentler, her edges blurred in a way that made my breath catch. I didn't recognize her, and yet I knew her. Tentatively, I ran my hands over the fabric, smoothing it down, watching how it draped over my hips. A strange warmth spread through my chest, a feeling I couldn't quite name, but didn't want to let go of. That was the beginning. What started as a secret experiment became an obsession. I scoured thrift stores for more pieces, skirts that swished when I walked, blouses with delicate buttons, a pair of heels that made me wobble like a newborn deer, but filled me with giddy pride when I finally mastered them. I learned how to tuck, how to shape my brows, how to apply just enough makeup to enhance without overwhelming. Every step was clumsy at first, but with each try, the reflection in the mirror felt more like me. Then came the day I decided to go outside. Not just to the mailbox or the car, but out into the world where people could see me. I chose a quiet cafe on the other side of town, someplace where no one knew me. Dressing took hours. I changed outfits 4 times, wiped off my lipstick twice, and nearly talked myself out of it a dozen times before I finally stepped through the door. The bell jingled overhead, and for one heart-stopping second, I was sure everyone would turn and stare, would point and laugh. But no one did. The barista smiled and took my order. The couple in the corner kept chatting, and the old man by the window didn't even glance up from his newspaper. I was just another woman having a coffee. That moment changed everything. It wasn't about the clothes anymore, it was about the person they helped me become. The more I let her out, the more she fit, like slipping into a skin I didn't know I'd been missing. I started going out more, bolder each time, until one evening, I found myself standing in front of that same thrift store where it all began, this time in a sundress and sandals, my hair styled, my nails painted. The rainbow-haired cashier was there again, and when our eyes met, she grinned. "Well, look at you," she said. I knew that dress would be perfect. I smiled back, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was pretending. Walking in, I had been a man. But coming out, I was finally her. And she was beautiful. The days that followed were a whirlwind of discovery, each small step forward feeling like a leap into a world I had only ever glimpsed from a distance. I spent hours in front of the mirror, not scrutinizing flaws, but marveling at the way a swipe of mascara could make my eyes look brighter, how the right dress could make me stand taller. It wasn't just about appearance, though. It was the way my posture softened, the way my voice instinctively lilted when I spoke, the way my hands moved with a grace I never knew I possessed. I started researching in secret forums, articles, personal accounts of women who had walked this path before me. The more I read, the more I understood that this wasn't just a fascination. It was identity. The word transgender floated in my mind, at first terrifying, then exhilarating. Was that me? Could I really be her? One evening, I worked up the courage to order a wig online, long, chestnut brown, the kind of hair I had always imagined myself having. When it arrived, I locked myself in the bathroom, heart pounding as I adjusted it over my short, masculine hair. The transformation was instant. The woman in the mirror wasn't just a fleeting illusion anymore. She was real. I laughed, then cried, then laughed again, pressing my hands to my face so I wouldn't smudge my makeup. But with the joy came fear. What would happen if someone found out? My coworkers, my friends, my family, would they still see me the same way? Or would they look at me like I was a stranger, a fraud, something unnatural? The thought kept me awake at night, my stomach twisting with anxiety. Then came the day I met her. I was browsing a boutique downtown, nervously running my fingers over a silky blouse, when a voice beside me said, "That would look gorgeous on you." I turned to see a woman, tall, confident, her dark curls framing a face that radiated warmth. She was dressed impeccably, her makeup flawless, and for a second, I was too stunned to speak. Thank you. I stammered, suddenly hyper-aware of my own voice, my stubble beneath the foundation. She smiled, unfazed. "First time shopping for yourself." I nodded, my face burning. "I remember that," she said, her voice soft. "It gets easier, I promise." Her name was Elise. She was trans, too, and in the span of an hour over coffee, she became the first person I ever truly confided in. She told me about her own journey, the struggles and the triumphs, and for the first time, I didn't feel alone. "You don't have to have all the answers right now," she said, squeezing my hand. "Just let yourself be." Her words stayed with me. Slowly, I started allowing myself more freedom. I cleared out half my closet, replacing old button-ups with blouses, swapping boxers for lace-trimmed panties. I practiced my voice in the car, singing along to pop songs until my feminine register felt more natural. And then one weekend, Elise invited me out, really out. "There's a queer-friendly bar downtown," she said. "No one will bat an eye at you there. You should come." The idea terrified me, but the thought of staying hidden forever terrified me more. That night, I dressed with more care than ever before. A fitted red dress, sheer stockings, heels that made my legs look endless. I spent an hour on my makeup, contouring my face until my jawline looked softer, my lips fuller. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the man I used to be. The bar was alive with music and laughter, a kaleidoscope of people who didn't conform, didn't apologize for who they were. Elise greeted me with a hug, introducing me to her friends as Sophia, the name I had secretly been calling myself in my head for weeks. Hearing it aloud, from someone else's lips, made my heart skip. No one questioned me. No one stared. I was just another girl in the crowd, dancing, smiling, existing. At one point, a handsome guy at the bar bought me a drink, his eyes lingering on me in a way that sent a thrill down my spine. "You're stunning," he said, and for the first time in my life, I believed it. I didn't know what the future held, hormones, surgeries coming out to the world, but in that moment, none of that mattered. Because I had done the impossible. I had stepped into that thrift store as a man. And now, here I was, Sophia, alive, radiant, and finally myself. The weeks after that night at the bar were like waking up from a dream I hadn't realized I was trapped in. Every morning, I looked in the mirror and saw her, Sophia, staring back at me, no longer a fleeting illusion but a truth I was finally embracing. The more I let myself exist in this skin, the more the old version of me faded, like a shadow dissolving in sunlight. Elise became my guide, my confidant, my lifeline. She took me shopping for my first real wardrobe. No more thrift store experiments, but carefully chosen pieces that made me feel elegant. A tailored blazer that nipped in at the waist, a flowing skirt that swirled around my legs, lingerie that made me feel delicate and desired. With each new item, I shed another layer of the man I'd been pretending to be. But the real turning point came when Elise invited me to her apartment for what she called girls' night. I arrived nervous, clutching a bottle of wine like a security blanket, but the moment I stepped inside, I was enveloped in warmth. Her friends, Lena, a fiery redhead with a razor-sharp wit, and Priya, soft-spoken but with a laugh that could light up a room, greeted me like I'd always belonged. We did face masks, painted our nails, gossiped about terrible dates, and for the first time in my life, I felt normal. Not like an imposter, not like a man playing dress-up, but like one of them. Lena even helped me with my contouring, showing me how to soften my jawline, while Priya braided my hair, her fingers gentle and sure. "You're a natural," Lena said, tilting my chin toward the light. Seriously, if you hadn't told me, I'd never know. Her words sent a rush of euphoria through me. But beneath it, a quiet fear lingered. What if the rest of the world isn't as kind? That fear became real the first time I ventured into my usual grocery store as Sophia. I had been out in queer spaces, safe and surrounded by people who understood, but this was different. This was real life. My pulse pounded as I pushed my cart through the aisles, hyper-aware of every glance, every murmur. Then, halfway through the frozen food section, I heard a low, mocking laugh from a group of teenagers nearby. "Check that out," one of them sneered. My stomach dropped. I kept my eyes fixed on the freezer door, my fingers tightening around the handle. Don't react. Don't give them the satisfaction. But then, got a problem? A voice cut through the tension like a knife. An older woman, her silver hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun, stood between me and the boys, her arms crossed. "Because if you do, you can take it up with me." The boys muttered something and scattered. The woman turned to me, her expression softening. "You okay, sweetheart?" I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. She patted my arm. "Don't let idiots like that dim your light." That small act of kindness carried me through the rest of the day. Not everyone would accept me, but not everyone would hate me either. The world wasn't black and white, it was a spectrum, just like me. That night, I sat at my vanity, wiping off my makeup with slow, deliberate strokes. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was erasing myself. Sophia wasn't a costume I took off at the end of the day. She was me. I picked up my phone and opened a browser, my fingers hovering over the keyboard before typing. HRT for transgender women. It was time. The next morning, I called the LGBTQ+ health clinic Elise had recommended. My hands shook as I spoke to the receptionist, my voice barely above a whisper when I said, "I think I'm ready to start transitioning." 3 weeks later, I sat in an exam room, clutching a prescription for estrogen like it was a lifeline. The doctor, a kind-eyed woman with a rainbow pin on her coat, smiled at me. "Congratulations, Sophia. Today's the first day of the rest of your life." I took my first dose that night, staring at the tiny pill in my palm before swallowing it with a gulp of water. It felt ceremonial, like a vow. This is who I am. The changes didn't happen overnight. But slowly, my body began to align with my soul. My skin softened, my hips rounded, and the reflection in the mirror grew more familiar with each passing day. Then came the hardest part, telling my family. I invited my parents over for dinner, my hands trembling as I set the table. I wore a simple sweater dress, my hair loose around my shoulders, subtle enough not to raise alarms, but unmistakably me. My mother knew instantly. "Something's different," she said, her eyes searching mine. I took a deep breath. Mom, Dad, there's something I need to tell you." The words spilled out, clumsy and raw. I told them about the thrift store dress, the nights spent staring at the mirror, the aching rightness of being Sophia. When I finished, the silence was deafening. Then, to my shock, my mother began to cry. My heart shattered. "I've lost them." But then she stood, rounded the table, and pulled me into a hug so tight it stole my breath. "My daughter," she whispered. My father was slower, his brow furrowed, but when he spoke, his voice was steady. "I don't understand, but I love you. That's all that matters." That night, as I lay in bed, I realized something. I wasn't just becoming Sophia. I had always been her. She wasn't someone I invented. She was the person I'd been hiding my whole life. And now, finally, she was free. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be battles, legal, medical, societal. But for the first time, I wasn't walking it alone. I had Elise. I had my parents. And most of all, I had myself. I closed my eyes, smiling as I drifted off to sleep. Tomorrow, I would wake up as Sophia. And the day after that. And every day for the rest of my life. The months that followed were a whirlwind of transformation, not just in my body, but in every facet of my life. Estrogen worked its quiet magic, softening my edges, rounding my silhouette, and rewiring my emotions in ways I hadn't expected. I cried at commercials. I craved chocolate with a ferocity that startled me. And for the first time, when I caught my reflection in a store window, I didn't flinch. I recognized myself. Work was the next hurdle. I had built a career as him, a name and identity that no longer fit. The thought of coming out at the office filled me with dread, but staying silent felt like suffocating. Elise helped me draft an email to HR, my fingers shaking as I hit send. The response was better than I dared hope. My company had diversity policies in place, and after a private meeting with my manager, a kind but awkward man who stammered, "We just want you to be happy. Sophia," we set a date for my transition at work. The morning of my official return as Sophia, I dressed with meticulous care, a navy blue pencil skirt, a cream blouse, and a blazer that made me feel powerful. My hair, now shoulder-length thanks to patience and extensions, was styled in soft waves. A delicate gold necklace, a gift from my mother, rested against my collarbone. Walking into the office was like stepping onto a stage. Conversations stuttered as heads turned. Some stares were curious, others uncomfortably intense. But then, Sophia, Mark from accounting, of all people, was the first to greet me by name. "You look fantastic," he said, as casually as if commenting on the weather. One by one, my colleagues followed suit. A few awkward moments lingered, but the overwhelming sentiment was acceptance. By lunchtime, the novelty had faded, and I was just me, working at my desk, sipping coffee, existing without apology. That night, I celebrated with Elise and our friends at our favorite wine bar. Lena clinked her glass against mine.
"To the real you," she said, grinning.
But life wasn't all euphoric milestones. There were days when dysphoria clawed at me, when my reflection betrayed me with stubbornly masculine hints. The first time I was misgendered in public, a barista's careless, "Here's your coffee, sir." I locked myself in a bathroom stall and sobbed. Elise found me there, mascara streaking down my face. "It'll happen again," she said bluntly, handing me a tissue. "But it doesn't make you any less of a woman." She was right. The world wasn't perfect, but I was learning to navigate it. I started vocal training to soften my speech, joined a transgender support group, and even went on a few dates, awkward, exhilarating experiments in being seen as desirable, not just visible. Then came the day I'd both longed for and feared, my legal name change. Standing before a judge, I swore that Sophia Marie Reynolds was my true identity. The gavel struck, and just like that, he was gone. When my new ID arrived in the mail, I traced the embossed letters with trembling fingers. Sophia. Female. No asterisks, no explanations. My parents framed my old and new birth certificates side by side. "Our daughter," my father said, his voice thick. As the seasons turned, so did my life. I moved into a sunlit apartment with Elise's roommates, our closets merging in a riot of colors and fabrics. We hosted dinner parties where laughter echoed off the walls, where I learned to cook while wearing an apron and lipstick, where my friends teased me for finally understanding the struggle of finding a cute yet comfortable bra. One spring afternoon, I found myself back at the thrift store where it all began. The same rainbow-haired cashier manned the register. When our eyes met, she gasped. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's you." I smiled, smoothing my floral sundress. "It's me." She rounded the counter and pulled me into a hug. "Look at you," she murmured. "You're radiant." And I was. That evening, as golden hour painted my bedroom in warm light, I stood before my full-length mirror. The woman looking back was undeniably Sophia, her curves gentle, her smile easy, her eyes alight with a hard-won peace. I thought of the scared, closeted person who'd first slipped on that thrift store dress, how she could never have imagined this moment. I had walked in as a man.
But now?
Now I was home. 5 years later, at a rooftop party celebrating my promotion, I raised a glass to the friends who'd become my family. My parents chatted with Elise's girlfriend, my boss complimented my dress, and the setting sun painted everything in hues of rose gold. Later, as fireworks burst over the city, a stranger, a young person with nervous eyes and a too-big blazer, approached me. "Excuse me," they whispered. "Are you trans?" I smiled.
Yeah.
They swallowed hard. "How did you become this?" I took their hand, squeezing gently. "One step at a time, sweetheart. One step at a time." And as the music swelled around us, I knew my story was just beginning. Thank you so much for watching till now. It means the world to have you here. This community is all about empowering each other and celebrating the incredible journeys of everyone on their path to living authentically. If you're ever feeling lost or alone, remember you have a whole family here for you. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and let's keep inspiring each other, sending you all the love and strength in the world. Until next time, live your life by your rules.